Know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Tempus is the greater god of war. He is also known as Foehammer, as lord of battles, and as the battle lord, whilst his enemies spitefully deride him as Slowhammer, albeit far from earshot. And finally, to the followers of Garagos, the god of berserkers, he is known simply as the Usurper. He is the force, the hammer, and the thunder that builds men up, breaks them open, builds legends, and grinds mighty empires to dust. In his most pure form, Foehammer appears as a 12-foot-tall, hulking man, encased in battered plate armor and drenched in the blood of many enemies. His face remains hidden beneath a mighty helm, and yet his gaze may be felt like a physical force bearing down upon lesser beings like the weight of time. His bare arms and legs are lacerated in wounds that he does not seem to feel, and the hot blood that runs down from them turns to smoke as it burns up in the air around him. Otherwise, he will assume 3 archetypal forms. The first, named Tempus of the Ambitious Recruit, appears as a paragon of dutiful service, youthful, strong, and dressed in immaculate military uniform. The second, Tempus of the Gallant Knight, epitomizes chivalry and nobility from astride a great warhorse, whilst his third form is known as Tempus of the Cunning Warlord, arriving at the center of chaos to signal the advance of a great war host. Tempus is one of many gods of war that were created by the first conflict, when Selune the Moon battled Shah the Night. Over tens of thousands of years, these powers of conflict battled one another for dominance, and Tempus, he slew them all and absorbed their powers. All except for Garagos, the god of berserkers, whom Foehammer spared. No one knows exactly what caused this act of mercy, but some believe that Tempus found his foe's bloodlust to be so utterly antithetical to honorable combat that he wanted simply nothing to do with him. Thus others claim that the Lord of Battle keeps Garagos around as a useful idiot, easily manipulated into cutting down any challenger to Foehammer's reign. During the time of troubles, a cleric of Tempus named Eldan Ambrose encountered his god upon a battlefield in the Dale Lands and followed him back to a ruined castle in Battledale. Following this vision, he rebuilt the keep and renamed it as the Abbey of the Sword. Ambrose later died a glorious death in battle some 13 years after his vision, as the keep turned out to be built atop caverns containing portals to the Underdark, spewing forth Drow raiders for the warriors to repel. At first glance, Tempus seems to be a creature of pure chaos, supporting both sides in a conflict, provided they each fight with some semblance of honor, of course. He may switch sides merely based upon the glorious or the foul deeds of single combatants, for his peculiar morality demands strict adherence to the rules of combat. Therefore, in his eyes, there is always method to the madness. For war is the great equalizer where any warrior may change the course of history. If Tempus has a weakness, it is that he is a slave to his own excesses, as even light meals become grand feasts. A few drinks will quickly become nights of debauchery, and short battles become uncontained slaughters in his hands. For his passion for life and for glory know no limits. Despite being a particularly prominent deity, Tempus interacts with very few other gods. Though he is patriarch over a scattered few war deities that he has personally elevated to divinity himself, chief among them is his closest ally and his protege, the Red Knight, the goddess of strategy, whom he dotes on like a proud father. But also including Valkyr, the god of sailors, who impressed Fohammer with his daring courage, and Uthgard, the god of the Uthgard barbarians, who gained Tempus's favor through his strength. He is also known to have a chaotic romance with Vtuber, the Maid of Misfortune, a casual friendship with Nobanian, the god of Leonine nobility, and a sound working relationship with Gond, the god of craftsmen. Ironically, he is very fond of Eldath, the goddess of peace, respecting her convictions and protecting her followers from harm. As far as enemies go, Tempus has very few left alive. Whilst Garagos despises the Lord of Battle, Tempus seems largely indifferent to his defeated foe. Others will criticize him from afar, such as Elistre, the goddess of redemption, who dislikes needless killing that robs mortals of a second chance. And likewise he may earn the ire of Sune, the goddess of beauty, for the destruction that follows him everywhere. But Tempus does not seem to take her threats seriously, for he knows that she may very well change her mind as easily as she changes her clothes. The divine realm of Tempus is known as Warrior's Rest, on the plain of Asgard, where war rages eternal and heroes return to life each day to boast of their exploits and then to join in to fight beside those who defeated them. In this chaotic realm, true death is reserved solely for those who show cowardice or dishonor their opponent. Fohammer wields destructive prowess far too vast to adequately describe. When he personally joins the fray, he falls into a frenzied battle trance that lasts the entire length of the conflict, and then the same amount of time afterwards. Thus, one fight may quickly snowball into another as the Fohammer loses himself in the rush of conflict. He is immune to many effects, including electricity, acid, cold, poison, death, disease, disintegration, sleep, paralysis, imprisonment, banishment, mind-influencing effects, being stunned, and any transmutation magic. He may sense anything within 17 miles of his avatars, his followers, his holy sites, his relics, or anywhere that any of his names or his titles were spoken within the last hour. He may sense up to 20 locations at once, and he may block lesser gods from viewing 2 locations for up to 17 hours. He has foreknowledge of any battle up to 170 days before it happens, and he retains sensation of it for 170 days afterwards. He is aware of any act of violence, as well as the death of a warrior by any cause. And likewise, he is an expert armorsmith, working at 20 times the speed of a mortal practitioner. And finally, he may instantly create any magic item that deals damage or offers protection. Tempus is a greater deity, one of the highest order, and his chaotic neutral alignment reflects the unpredictable effects of adhering to his strict moral code. His clerics, unsurprisingly, adopt the war domain, and they turn and destroy undead. His chosen weapon is an enchanted battle axe known as Battle Prowess, and his divine casters wield battle axes of their own in kind. His holy time occurs just before the midday, when his followers pray for spells, to continue the fight with renewed fervor throughout the afternoon, putting off rest for another day. The followers of the Lord of Battle call themselves Tempurans, and they include soldiers, mercenaries, barbarians, adventurers, everyday folk who have found cause to draw steel, and certain artificers called battle forgers who specialize in war machines. Among the Northlanders of the Moonshade Isles, Tempus is worshipped as a thunder god, associated with storms, with lightning, and with the spoils of war. Being a Tempuran requires one to be fearless, to never shy away from a fight, and to respect and to obey the rules of war. Thus, Tempurans will constantly train their minds and their bodies to defend their communities, and they will slay war criminals on sight, such as those who attack civilians during peacetime, those who poison wells, and those who salt the earth. Tempurans do not seek conflict needlessly, but they will never back down from a good fight. But they would rather end a war quickly than allow it to rage on endlessly. After performing deeds that would please Foehammer, Tempurans will speak the words, "Tempus thanks you," to which other followers in earshot shall reply, "And I thank Tempus." Even enemies will honor their foes with this passphrase, and it is not uncommon for warriors from opposing camps to form bonds over this small act. Impromptu prayers to the Lord of Battle will occur when a warrior has time to prepare for a fight, and the prayer will generally be focused upon the warrior's main weapon, be it the one that they most commonly wield, or else a new weapon recently claimed in battle as a sign of Foehammer's favor. The particularly devout will pray 3 times daily. First, over a midday meal known as a Feast of Heroes, and then at sunset they shall sing the Song of the Fallen. And finally, after night has fallen, they shall sing the Song of the Sword. Many will also shed blood, either their own or an enemy's, at least once every 10 days. Likewise, they will hold athletic competitions known as Champions Frays within temples of the war god, where the strongest have a chance to prove their prowess. The holiest Tempuran rite is known as the March of the Dead, occurring on the holy day of the Feast of the Moon, the day to honor the fallen. Whereupon the clergy shall march through the streets, listing the names of the dead and calling out for all people to walk with them to their temples, to feast and to sing of the fallen. Otherwise, they are also known to commemorate the anniversary of local battles, such as within the Dale Lands they celebrate the Battle of Ambrose's Fall on the 7th of Uktar, and the Battle of Swords Creek on the 17th of Flame Rule. The clergy of Tempus are known simply as hammers. They rarely tie themselves to one side or another of a conflict, but rather they will serve as wartime chaplains, attending to the wounded on both sides and supporting those who fight honorably in Foehammer's name. They will also act as blacksmiths, providing all of the materials for war, and they will go out of their way to witness the signing of military contracts, of mercenary agreements, and letters of marque, holding both parties answerable to the Lord of Battle personally. Hammers consider it a sacred duty to collect the names of the fallen, preserving them in prayers and in songs, on gravestones and on memorials. They will also gather and keep safe all of the broken weapons and armor of fallen heroes, treating them as sacred relics that contain the honor and the passion of the wielder, to be shared with those who prey upon them. Whilst the most powerful hammers will actually seek to preserve the minds of fallen heroes by encasing them within intelligent weapons, in sentient suits of armor, or even in powerful armored golems, so that they may fight on after death. In times of peace, Hammer helps settlements organize themselves to defend against bandits and monster attacks. But when a particularly deadly foe threatens the Temporan faith specifically, they will lead crusades the chroniclers have described as civilized hordes of barbarians for their battle further. Many hammers will multi-class as fighters, whilst for their armaments they are forbidden from covering their face during combat, as to imitate Tempus in this regard is considered to be blasphemous for a cleric. Some will never remove their armor unless it is absolutely necessary, but when they wear casual robes, these shall vary in color by their rank, with darker tones such as brown or purple for lower ranks, with red worn by senior clergy, and with the highest among them dressed in yellow or in white. Regardless of color, these robes are decorated with red trimmings as if stained by blood, and some clergy will wear spiked gauntlets with their robes as a sign of rank. Hammers wield a number of unique spells, including one that causes two identical objects to become linked such that any damage suffered by one shall appear on the other, enabling them to know from afar if their comrade's armor is still intact. Another spell enables them to heal a target by casting healing spells upon the weapon that injured them. Others will reveal magic writings, summon an enchanted flail, or create a horrific wall of pummeling arms. Hammers will observe no formal hierarchy, split as they are across all sides of every faction and every conflict. And as such, they have multiple different systems of titles and ranks. A more traditional hierarchy identifies a qualified hammer as war priest, who may then gain the rank of swung sword, terrible sword, lance of the Lord, shield of the god, battle lord or battle lady, sword mistress or sword master, and then lord or lady of the field. Additional ranks and titles are saved for those who serve specific roles such as trusted sword for the head of temples and battle chaplain for those who guard shrines. But a more modern hierarchy identifies hammers both by title and armament, with novices known as acolyte wearing a baldric over leather armor. Then stalwart describes a priest who wears chainmail. Above them is a warrior priest known as Hardhar, who wears a breastplate and braces. Arahar describes chaplains in splint mail. Ralphat are masters of weaponry who don plate mail with shoulder spikes. Then Dayahar are specialized guardians in full plate mail. And then high priests known as Walian don suits of gilded full plate enchanted with the power of flight. Being one of the most popular religions of Faerun, Tempuran worship is common in Cormia, in the Dale Lands, the Dragon Coast, Impeltur the Vast, the Moon Sea, the Ride, Damara, Unther, Chacenta, the Vilhon Reach, Sespec, Termish, Shondlewood, the Nalantha Isles, the Shah, Dambrath, Waterdeep, the Western Heartlands, and within various barbarian cultures, such as the Ragged Men of Icewind Dale, the Northlanders of the Moonshae Isles, the Nars of Narfell, and the Uthgard of the Savage North, just to name a few. Tempuran temples more commonly resemble fortresses than churches. Shrines, however, are less impressive, often decorated with broken weapons, old pieces of armor, and grisly trophies. These places of worship are scattered across the Dale Lands, dominating this frontier land and the surrounding territories, such as the famous Abbey of the Sword in Battledale, and the Fortress of Sword Point that looms over Archendale. Whilst on the coast, the Shrine of Crossed Swords may be found within Scarsdale town. Another shrine lies in Shadowdale, and a third in Tasseldale. In the warlike kingdom of the Moonsea to the north, the Vault of Swords is the largest temple in Hillsfar, whilst in Mulmaster to the east lies the Temple of the High Hall of Swords. There are also shrines in Melvaunt, in Thentia, in Vunlar, and in Zentil Keep, the headquarters of the Zentarim. Likewise, there are also shrines in Saerloon and Ermlaspear, both located within the wealthy kingdom of Sembia to the south. To the west, the forest kingdom of Cormia has a long tradition of noble warfare. Their borders are defended to the north by the temple known as Glory Hall overlooking the Stone Lands, and their westernmost reaches in Prosker. Likewise, in the Stormhorn Mountains lies Spear Rock, a sacred site to Tempus. There are also shrines in the capital city of Suzail, in Arabel, in High Castle, in Thunderstone, and in Monk's Blade. Beyond their western borders, in the Sunset Vale, the wealthy cities of Erebor and Burdusk also contain shrines, overseeing the trade routes connecting to the Sword Coast. Further west, shrines and temples continue to mark the wealthy trade routes that connect the coast with the inland kingdoms. At the edge of the Sunset Vale, there is a shrine in the village of Hill's Edge. Then the temple known as the Hand That Swings the Sword protects Elturel. overlooking the High Moor Dragon Spear Castle, contains a temple known as the Hold of Battle Lions. Another famous shrine, known as the Table of the Sword, lies in Daggerford. And finally, the House of Heroes is a grand temple within the great city of Waterdeep. Further north, within the cold reaches, there is a temple in Luskan, the city of sails, and a shrine in Icewind Dale within the delightfully named village of Goodmead, whilst a shrine in Newport administers to the faithful of Lurua. Further abroad, the Beacon of Battle is the name of a temple in Calimport within Galimshan that recruits worshippers from among the city's gladiators. Whilst Arm contains two famous temples, the Towers of the Vengeful Hand in Eshperta, and the Golden Fortress, which trains Arm's standing army. There is also a temple in Bazantur, the city of temples within Thay, and two in the Kingdom of the Vast. The House of War lies in their capital city of Raven's Bluff, and the House of Glory is within the city of Tantras. Finally, Bloodhall, also known as the High House of the Sword and Banners, lies within the city of Ormpetar, within Sespec. Perhaps the most famous Tempuran military order is the elite order of the Steel Fang, centered around Chesenter and the Vilhon Reach, who are charged with the most dangerous missions on behalf of their church. The Steel Fangs will also hire mercenary companies to act on their behalf, which may be identified by the insignia of a dagger. Tempurans even have a knightly order for those who have been maimed in battle or who have become too old to go on lengthy campaigns. Known as the Order of the Broken Blade, they will serve temples and shrines as a final line of defense. And finally, a heretical sect of Tempurans, known as the Fallen, are warriors who have faced far too many horrors in their lifetime and have lost all faith in honor and in glory. Instead, they have turned to worshipping demons and to carrying out their worst urges upon their opponents, seeking to cause pain for its own sake. In my world, the Raven's Banner crusade that musters to oppose the Drow conquests is not a spontaneous creation. Rather, it emerges from a long lineage of armed pilgrimages that seek to marry military service to religious devotion. Just a few generations passed after Faerun endured a period of population crash and the loss of divine magic. The king of Cormia launched a holy war to restore faith to the land, framing the soldier as a charitable pilgrim to save the world from decline. The first step in this new form of warfare was practically bloodless, as the Cormyrian Archmage dueled the wizards of neighboring Sembia over control of their nation, in exchange for making their lands the headquarters of the new global church. This victory was widely praised as heralding in a new, more honorable and civilized form of warfare. But they could not repeat this success in the subsequent invasion of the Majocracy of Thay, as no amount of noble jewels could undo the stalled ground invasion, nor convince the Red Wizards to give up their power. Rather than see the Crusade stall completely, it was decided to change tactics, from the subjugation of Thay and its population to the obliteration of the entire kingdom. The earth was salted, so that nothing may ever grow there again. All the Thayan fortresses and all of their cultural edifices were ground down to dust, and the wealth of the Red Wizards was carted back to Cormyr and used to fuel the expanding crusade, leaving nothing but desert behind. Cowed by this brutal example, other kingdoms quickly fell in line with very little resistance, and divine magic was restored under a central authority, and the king of Cormyr was crowned Emperor of Faerun. Today, following the Emperor's sudden death, he was succeeded by his chief paladin, a man who accepted the crown but refused to become emperor, for his oaths required him to remain beneath his liege lord in stature, even in death. Thereafter, parts of the empire have begun to fracture under new colonial ambitions. The Raven's Banner, this new crusade, is thus the brainchild of the new king of Cormyr and of the Central Church in Sembia, seeking to exploit the Drow threat to unify the empire once again in a common defense of all of their neighbors. It seeks to bring warring feudal lords back in line by offering forgiveness from past crimes and sins to those who march to war. But will this prove to be a war of righteousness against wickedness? Or will the marriage of religion and political ambition offer no better than a Pyrrhic victory, given a tenacious enemy with nothing to lose, and likewise, when even the remission of sin cannot erase the generational trauma of war? The code of the temple and faith is sung full-throated, with voices raised in triumph. Victory is not due to the will of Tempus alone, but rather he merely helps the worthy claim what they deserve. Thus war is the great equalizer, as it offers the same chances for glory and the same ordeals for all warriors. Thus war is natural, like fire or water, spilling forth from the human spirit. Therefore, all deserve the right to defend themselves. But remember, even in the face of overwhelming odds, there is no shame in a hasty retreat. But one should never avoid combat needlessly. Ultimately, it is far better to end a conflict with a swift, decisive blow or an honorable duel between generals than it is to cause an endless quagmire of destruction. One should always honor the dead, for your heart beats only because of their sacrifice. Therefore, if you are not willing to stand up and defend what you believe in, then you have already lost. Respect your friend and your foe alike, for courage wells up in men and in women, in young and in old, in elf, dwarf, human, and orc all the same. Those who fight with honor are beloved by Tempus, whilst he curses those who destroy homes, families, and livestock when their soldiers are away, as he hates those who employ trickery when they already possess the advantage. Know that violence has consequences, and always consider them carefully before engaging in war. And finally, know that the greatest villain is not the tyrant, the bandit, nor the marauding orc. It is the charismatic, two-faced liar who would save their own skin rather than to defend those who rely upon their sword.